Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anyway Whatever podcast. I am your host, Mike Fisher, and today's guest is Joey LaRocca, also known as Joey Briggs. He is a musician and entertainer from the music scene, and me and him have been friends for about a decade. We've worked on a bunch of projects together. So yeah, I think people are going to dig this one. If you are watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and click the little bell to get updates and, share, like, comment, all that stuff. If you are listening to the audio version of this podcast, you can give us a subscribe or a like wherever it is you're getting your podcast content. And you can find us on social media at Anyway Whatever Podcast, on Twitter at AWP_podcast, and Instagram, all that stuff. My personal Instagram for my art and design is at Maximum Fluoride. And enjoy this episode. It's a really good listen. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anyway Whatever podcast. I'm your host, Mike Fisher, and today's guest is Joey LaRocca of the band The Briggs and many other amazing, cool projects that we're going to discuss today. What's up, dude?
Hey, how's it going, man?
It's going good. It's going good. I appreciate you spending some time chatting with me today. During all this weirdness going on in the world right now. So I like everybody to get their social media shout outs up front. Where can people find your music stuff and your video stuff and all that stuff you got going on?
I mean, mostly I tend to do a lot more on Instagram than anything else. So mainly I have like my Joey Briggs music is my solo thing. And then I have the Briggs LA is our Instagram. And then obviously it's all on Facebook and stuff like that too. But that's usually my main outlet.
Okay, cool. A little background on you and your musical projects is that your primary vehicle has always been the Briggs, correct?
Yeah,
and then you guys kind of went on hiatus for a while, or what happened with that?
Yeah, I mean, we never really like officially stopped. We just kind of stopped. I mean,
right.
And then we were kind of doing things here and there, and then we started to pick up the pieces here and there, and then but overall, we haven't been like an active band for probably about a decade. I mean, like fully like on the road and doing our thing, Here and there. We did a couple little things. Like a few years ago, we did a tour of 7 Seconds, and we do like festivals and things here and there.
Yeah. As one of the benefits of being a legacy band like that is that you can kind of do that. We're just going to do festivals thing, and you can get paid to just like get flown somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is always amazing when you don't have to live in a van for 6 weeks to get to the festival first.
Yeah, exactly. Just a little fun weekend trip.
So how me and you actually met was, and this goes back a little bit to some other episodes that I have recorded that have yet to come out, is me and you met through Bo Patrick.
Yeah.
Because he had me, and I met Bo on tour with my last band, Destroyed in Seconds. And,
oh, really?
Met him at the most random goddamn punk rock show I've ever played or been to in my life. That was like in a cabin on the bayou outside of New Orleans, like at the north side of Lake Pontchartrain.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, totally random crust punk, like house party cabin squat throwdown. That was like, it was crazy. It was one of the craziest places I've ever been in my life. So I met Bo Patrick there, and he was showing some of his footage from train hopping, and we started talking because it's so amazing. He has got such an eye for photography and video stuff. It's like nobody else I think I've ever seen. So I was great. Just like talking to him there, like, oh wow. And he's like, yeah, I'm in LA. And we were like, what? So me and Bo became friends. This was like 2010. And we stayed in contact from that. And then he filmed my band's video. and one of the camera guys on that was Cyril Hellwine.
Oh yeah.
And so I was at a Kings game, and you guys, the Briggs, had just played the This Is LA theme song, and it was like between periods, and like I ran into Cyril, who was hanging with you and your brother, and it was like, and so I think that's how we all met for the first time, and then me and you have just stayed in contact through social media, but yeah, all those guys like Bo and Cyril and all them are so talented and amazing, like just to be in that circle, and you're gonna end up meeting cool people through that.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, totally. Because Bo actually did one of our videos too. He did the Panic video. He did that one. And Cyril's just been a buddy of mine too, just because, again, probably from photographing the band and stuff like that. We just kind of became buds. So yeah, totally random. But I remember that. I remember meeting you on the patio, like up at the Staples Center.
Totally, which was cool. I was like, hey, I just saw you up there doing the, which was cool. Like, what was that experience like working for the Kings in that capacity?
Oh, that was an amazing experience. I mean, it was so cool to be able to be a part of that energy. I mean, it's such a different thing, like sports events versus like a musical concert, I feel like it just has a different energy. But that was really cool. I mean, we were fortunate enough I think we probably did it 3 years in a row or something like that, because they were doing awesome at the time. And, but yeah, and then, so that was a really cool experience. And we were really stoked that they actually got to include us in that, because all of that was just completely, happenstance. Like we never really reached out to them about playing the song or anything. They just they found it somehow through somebody that I think worked at like Fox Sports or something like that. Then they started using the song, and and then I got a message from them one day saying, hey, we want to talk to you guys about playing at the playoffs games and stuff like that. I'm like, sweet, sounds awesome.
Yeah, that's got to be crazy. Like, just that whole thing of, and it's kind of come up a little bit on this show before, of like, you grow up in the punk scene, and you never imagine that someplace like playing in front of, 40,000 people at a Kings game is where punk rock is going to take you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, of all the places, it'll take you a lot of places, and you'll have a lot of fun in your life if that's what you decide to do with it. But that has to be one of those moments where you're like, how the hell did we end up here?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that whole thing was just a very bizarre, chain of events. And you're like, yeah, that is pretty odd how we ended up here, for sure.
And the band, the Briggs, was started by you and your brother, correct?
Yeah.
And he's like, he's on the production side of music now, right? Like, he works in a studio. Does he have his own studio, or is he an engineer?
He has his own studio, but he works at a lot of big studios because he mixes and engineers live orchestras and stuff like that for film and things like that. So he works with a lot of composers, and so usually when they do those big productions, like 100-piece orchestras and stuff like that, they do it at Capitol, or they do it at Warner Brothers and stuff like that. But he has his own place too, where he does, post-production mixing and stuff like that. And we still work on a lot of projects and stuff like that together, producing and things like that. But yeah, that's his main gig, is working with composers, doing engineering and mixing.
Yeah, he seems like he's got a full blown awesome career out of that, which is cool, because your brother's a super cool dude too.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of always been like, that was always his forte. Like, even from the beginning of like when we started bands, because when we were like teenagers, we started recording music and stuff like that, and just at our house. And we had started with a little four track recorder, and he like learned how to do that, and then kind of got a mixing board and started working with more channels, and he always engineered our records too. So like he was always at the board for the Briggs records too. So because he just like really liked
to
do things himself, and the way he really liked the way it would sound. So like that's pretty much always what he did, even from when we were teenagers.
That's awesome. You guys are LA native, right?
We are, yeah, from North Hollywood.
Oh wow, nice. Nice.
Yeah.
That's my last band's rehearsal space was like right there across from like on Cleon, like right a kitty corner to Circus Liquor. So I spent a lot of days of my life on that intersection at in North Hollywood.
There's a lot of rehearsal studios in North Hollywood for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. One of the like two buildings down was a larger space, and like, you know, I think it was REO Speedwagon and had space there, and I think Aerosmith had space there too. It was like all these really big, like legendary, like rock and roll bands, and we're like, you know, this fucking crust punk band 2 doors down. But you know, you'd always see those guys, like, you know, you go to get something to eat and everybody's like at the taco stand, you know, like, because it's just that the neighborhood and everybody needs to eat. And yeah, so that was always funny. So how long did the Briggs actually run for in like the core time, like start year to kind of, you know, where you even are now actually?
I think we've really started, like we started in like 2000 was like when we began, and then it picked up pretty quickly from there. In 2002, we released our first record on Disaster Records, which was Dwayne Peters' label, and he produced that first record. And then shortly after that, we were on side one for a few records, and we were basically like, you know, from my opinion, like I'd say till like 2010, 2011 was what like was that core period, because like from that point forward, it wasn't like 9 months out of the year, and that's what I kind of consider to be like a real band, is like when you're fully doing it, not just kind of here, you know. And so yeah, so I'd say probably from that time from like 2000, like 2011 was our like core time as like a full blown band.
How many? Also, like total side note, of course you put out records on side one, because at least half of the guests that have been on this show know Joseph in some way or another.
For sure.
Me and him have known each other since we were like 13 years old. So
nice. I love Joe. I mean,
everybody loves Joe.
He's just a great dude. He's just hilarious.
He is. He was like one of the first guys to start paying me to do artwork for bands, even before he had side one. And then he was the first record label that started. And a revelation that that we had while he was on this podcast was that I was responsible for the artwork for the very first side one dummy release, which I didn't know at the time it was the first like it was like a compilation record. I didn't know it was the first thing that they'd ever put out. I was just like, yeah, I'll do it.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, me and Joe go way back. So how many records did you guys put out in total, like full lengths?
We have 3 full lengths, and then we did an EP as well on side one. So our first full length was on Disaster. Then we did an EP, was our first thing. Like right at that time, that was sort of a thing they were doing. They with like new bands, they'd start with an EP to kind of kick it off, and then we kind of roll into a full length. So then we did 2 full lengths after that with side one. And so the last one we did was the one that has This Is LA, which was Come All You Madmen.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And that, in case we didn't cover it thoroughly enough as we were going, the song This Is LA was used by the Los Angeles Kings as like a rally song for a while there. And so, yeah, that's why he got to play live at Kings games. Yeah, exactly. And so another total weird aside is that when the Bombs got back together a couple years ago and started doing stuff, well, when DP restarted the Bombs with all new guys, they signed to the record label that I was kind of art directing for, so I got to do a ton of US Bombs work. And then, you know,
that's right.
Scene politics aside, you know, that deteriorated pretty quick, and so, you know, they left the label, and that whole, like, there's still a ton of stuff that I did for them that'll never see the light of day.
That's
like
a shame.
Redesigning packaging for old records and stuff like that. So you know, it is what it is. It's none of it's inside of my control, you know.
It's not really surprising to me.
No, it's not really surprising to anybody. And, people are, allowed to be how they're going to be. And it's not for me to judge. But
yeah.
So you had mentioned in the cheat sheet I have for you that you have a new music project going as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, like basically, my buddy Greg Camp, who was the guitar player for Smash Mouth and, wrote all those songs that, him and I became friends actually through our kids, because our kids went to school together and they're really good buds. And we became really good friends just from our similar music tastes and similar, a lot of, mutual friends and things like that. But then, so we actually, when this all kind of happened was when we started forming a thing together, because he was actually doing a bunch of different random songs with people. He was just like, I'm just doing this project, just like kind of throwing out songs and then like collabing with people.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been kind of kicking things around here and there and for some time, but then like we finally worked on a song together, and then instead of like putting it out as like Joey Briggs and Greg Camp, we just like, why don't we just start a project together, and then we'll just keep doing this, we'll just keep going, and so we did. So we started a project called Back Alley Lecture, and we put out 2 songs so far, and we've got a bunch more on the horizon. But yeah, I mean, it's a great setup because it's like our kids are really good friends, and then we're really good pals. So we'll just like, we'll hang out, and he's got a little home studio at his place, and they live in super close to us in Eagle Rock. We're over in Glendale, and but yeah, so that's been really fun. I mean, it's always fun to work on projects with friends,
Of course,
it's just like, there's no work involved at all. I mean, that's always, I mean, and I've had periods of time too, and even with the Briggs. I mean, my brother and I have always been good buds, so it's not. But that's also that, brother relationship is a different thing though, because that's also can be contentious in other ways. But obviously at the end of the day, we're still in love. But it's like, we don't have to play nice all the time.
Sure.
But yeah,
sure. I mean,
there's obviously that's a certain dynamic that is very, very unique. I mean, obviously you can see that in many famous brother relationships out there with a lot of the different, any of those, it almost always has fights and things like that. I mean, but not that we have that. We don't have a Gallagher relationship or anything like that. But
right.
But we actually we've been working also together as producers and stuff like that. Jason and I have been, my brother. So we definitely still have a good relationship as far as working together goes.
That's awesome. I'm not sure if it's Greg or not, but I know that the Smash Mouth guys kind of came out of the San Jose punk scene. And so I don't know that I actually was like friends with any of those dudes back in the day. I definitely knew who they were. And it was never any surprise that when Smash Mouth became a thing that we were all like, oh, whoa, so yeah, I always kind of rooted for those guys. Obviously Smash Mouth isn't exactly my personal taste in music, but I'm not one of those haters who shits on things that I don't personally like whatever. Like a lot of people like Smash Mouth, that's totally cool with me. I don't care, even if it's not my thing, but I always rooted for those dudes because it's like, it's kind of that thing of like, you see somebody make a decision that improves their life in ways that are just immense, and to judge somebody on some scene politics would be, I just think I've always thought that was super lame. And it was always one of the disappointing things about the punk scene for me was that, I mean, I kind of got into it like a lot of people because I just didn't fit in with other kids. And so I found this group of kids that also didn't fit in anywhere. And then all the dynamic was exactly the same as the places I didn't fit in. It was just a bunch of people judging each other over stupid shit. What clothes you were wearing and stuff. I was like, that's exactly why I don't like the regular kids at my high school, is because they judge you for what clothes you're wearing. What world did I just find myself in? But obviously punk music and the punk scene, it's been my life since, in 1982 when I was 12 years old. So, it is who I am. And so, I feel like I can be critical of it because I've put in enough years. But yeah, so it's cool that you're doing that with Greg, and that's a cool. Like I'm curious to hear it now because I haven't heard any of that stuff, and I'm curious to hear what you guys got going on. I'm like kind of excited about that. Me and Joey had I did all of the artwork packaging for Joey's first solo record.
That's right.
And then like a couple of EPs for other stuff. Like there was like a kind of acoustic thing that I did an EP art for. It was more or less just like layout work. So me and you have worked together on stuff, and it always went really, really well. You're so easy to work with, and so if you find yourself ever in need for any future stuff, you can always hit me up anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's so funny. I was thinking about that when. We've crossed paths quite a few times here and there on different things. And what's funny is that I feel like most of the nowadays our probably our greatest bond is our love for the same memes. I feel like that's probably
we are total meme bros, like for real. There's a few people on my Facebook and my Instagram who I constantly swap memes with because we happen to have the same flavor of humor.
Totally.
And you are definitely one of them. Like, I'm always like, I'm totally taking that one from you. And then I see one you post, it's like, yeah, I know you got that one from me. Cause I know I got it from my friend who's in England who Joey isn't friends with. So like, it's funny. Like, yeah, it's just like the meme scene on social media.
It totally is. Like, you find like your few people that you're going to get a good one from, like, it's like there's so many just shitty memes, you know what I mean? It's like, whenever I see one from you, I'm like, I'll always tension because I know I'm there's probably a 75% chance I'm going to steal it. So
for people who aren't friends of mine on Facebook, on my personal private Facebook page, every single morning when I get up, I change my cover photo to some different meme that I have. So it's like, the first thing I do every morning. I get up, I grab my tablet and I do that first thing. And it's like one of the ways that I kind of had a fan base for this podcast, like almost right away, was that just like from doing that dumb meme thing every day for like 5 years, like literally every day for 5 years. I don't know if I've missed more than once or twice. And like it's like people tell me like I only stay on Facebook to see your meme every morning, and then I just like log off. or people are like, I want to delete my account, but like I just got to see your morning meme. And so it's like it's very gratifying in a weird way to share things I didn't make myself and make people happy.
Yeah, for sure. And also, it holds us also to a standard though, because I feel that like I have to make sure it's a good one. You know what I mean? Because like people expect it from me that it's gonna be laugh. So it's like I can't post some like mediocre meme. It has to be fucking really good.
The only time I'll post something suspect is if I'm intentionally trying to annoy people with something.
Yeah.
Like I have a particular friend who's been a guest on this show twice, Dan Snow. And he's like, if I post like a stupid like dad joke or something, he will always call me out on it. So now I just start doing that to him on purpose every now and then. But yeah, I love it. I used to be a little bit more message driven with it, where maybe I was trying to speak politically or socially a little bit. But Facebook's such a shit show of that now that I just try to keep it as dumb and funny as I possibly can, because
Totally.
I can barely even stay logged into Facebook especially in the last year. It's just so ridiculous.
It's
In the last 4 years, but in the last year, it's just like it's just a shit show. There's nothing positive going on there, or very
it's really
little.
painful. And there's no really, and I mean, it's no use in echoing all the stuff anyways.
Yeah,
it's like, that's why I like to just kind of come out of left field with a lot of stuff, because it's just
Sure.
like, I'm just want to stay inside like my own little world, and I don't have to like chime in on everything that's going on constantly.
Right.
It's, I'll let the 90% of everyone else do that bullshit.
Yeah, dude, totally. I mean, in order to stay sane, you kind of have to ignore a lot of that stuff. And like, as people who come from the punk scene, like part of like the entirety of it really is about social awareness. And it's like hard because it's ingrained in you to care about things. And it's like hard to, it's like, I call it the doom trap, where like you get in there and it's just like you get into this, it's just all doom and gloom like all the time. And it's just not, I don't think it's healthy, especially with the quarantine stuff. Just watching people who are used to getting up every day and going to school or going to work, and they don't have the routine. People are losing their fucking shit, man. Like you just watch people just don't know how to handle not having anything to do, which, I mean, I don't have that problem because I'm a self-employed artist. So I always have something to do. And I've been doing this self-quarantine thing for like 10 years. But yeah, it's weird. Like people can't handle it. And I think it's showing in social media. And it's one of the reasons why I really like Instagram, is because there's just way less of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a lot more of your own content versus, I mean, apart from memes, but it's like, you're not just like posting articles and forwarding things that have already been shared and stuff. But yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's just, luckily for me too, my time as a touring musician that's not what I'm doing right now anyway. So it's that this hasn't affected me too adversely in that respect. I mean, I can still record music, I can still produce things, I can still write songs and things like that. So I feel very fortunate that it hasn't affected me as much as it has affected others. I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, it is interesting to just see the complete meltdown of society and all social cues of getting along. It's just like everyone's just at each other's throats constantly.
The meltdown of society in real time, live via broadcast. It kind of brings me a little bit to the Instagram thing. You have an Instagram account where you just post like funny videos and stuff. Is that Joey Briggs?
Actually, a lot of that I do on like my personal one, which is like Joey_Briggs _ LaRocca, and I do a lot of like videos and shit like that. Yeah, I mean, it started out like I would do a lot of things with like Snapchat filters and things, and then I would just like create characters or whatever. And now I just kind of like just do random videos. If I just get an idea of just like a character, I just kind of run with it. And it's just, it's just for my own entertainment. But I mean, it's been, people tend to find it pretty funny, but it's just, it is just like, it's just another outlet, and it usually will kind of poke fun at certain personalities or things that I find just kind of ridiculous. Yeah. So like, it's just like creating characters. I mean, it's just like, I usually just will come up with different random things. It usually also has a lot to do with like whatever my facial hair is looking like, or like like I'll just like kind of get a character out of some ridiculousness. I'm constantly changing the way I look just for my own amusement. And so it'll just usually be poking fun at different characters of modern society that I find kind of ridiculous, and just kind of goof on things. The funny thing about it is that like on the last one I did, and someone was, and some rando, I think he probably, because of the random hashtags I used, came across it and didn't realize it was a joke. and was just like, is this guy serious? And it was like, I'm clearly fucking not serious. Like, dude, you have to be so take things way too seriously to think that I'm joking. It's like so obvious. It's like I'm clearly not a martial arts expert. Like that's like I made that abundantly clear. But anyways, yeah, it's funny. I've had that a few times when you kind of get a little bit too jokey about things and people like don't get it and they like freak out at you online. Or I tend to not respond.
You can't
let everyone else kind of
at the minute you respond, you're going to get 100 more people who like people just are looking for any sign of resistance that they can exploit to create like a fire drama. And dude, it's like, it's ridiculous. Like, this is a thing that keeps coming up, is that for a long time, I was a part of an online community, of rock poster artists at gigposters.com. And, that message boards taught me how to behave online and how not to react to things, because the minute you react, like you're gonna get 100 people who are just like just start digging in, and then the more you dig in your heels on your point, it's just like a snowball of shit rolling downhill. So it's like you just got to let people. And that was part of my thing that was really keeping me from getting going on this show, is I just don't want to be called a dickhead by some 12-year-old kid in Ohio that I don't know over something that doesn't matter. It's like, but then I just decided that because I know how to not react to people or how to put out fires really fast, I was like, just do what you want to do, dude.
Yeah, I saw your post about the ads and running the ads and how you bombarded with shit. And it's just like, that's exactly why. Like I actually have it. It's a rule of mine, just on my own personal. Like I've made it my own rule, is that like I won't engage with people on social media with when someone comes at me or something like that. It's just like I won't do it because it's tempting. It's really tempting. Like when you know what I mean? Like if someone really fires at you or at something, it's just like you want to. I mean, you want to. It's like I don't know. Maybe it's human nature, like defend yourself or whatever. But it's just like it's such a waste of time. It's just a total waste of time. And I always just tell myself, you could spend your time, anything you do would probably be more productive and more worthwhile than fighting with some random person
dude.
online.
It's like, if people like us who are constantly creating whatever it is that we want to create, whether it's art or music or content, like you only have so much energy, and to expend the energy on something like that where you could just be directing it into making something new. I think that's, I think that's the point, is like, where you want your energy to go. Like that's those people, like the shitty comments, like for no reason, is a reflection on that person and not on you or what you're doing. And so, it's just, for me, that's just always how I look at it. I was like, I feel sorry for that person that this is how they're decided to spend their time and energy,
Yeah, and I mean, some people kind of make it that's like part of their whole thing. Like Michael Rappaport's a great example of like he comes in hard with his opinions and stuff like that, and every single negative response he responds to. You know what I mean? Like he goes for it, and I'm like, wow, dude, like. But that's his thing. Like his thing is full blown engagement with his entire feed, and it's like more power to you. I'm not.
I mean that's his whole point. Though.
But I mean, as long as that's
his whole point, though. My wife actually works with him on the TV show Atypical. My wife's a hairstylist on the TV show Atypical, and he's one of the leads on that. So my wife gets to work with Michael Rappaport every day when they're shooting that show, and she always comes home with some funny fucking story about some wild shit that he did.
He's pretty damn funny.
He's pretty funny.
Yeah, I worked with him.
What did you work with him on?
Such a good. He actually because I worked with Juliette Lewis. I actually TM'd for her a few years back, and then and I actually played guitar on one of the tours as well. And then, which is all kind of ties together. Bo is her brother, and we're old friends.
I did not know that they were brother and sister. I thought that they were.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing! I did not know that.
Yeah, and so so that's a weird, just small world thing. But anyways, we launched her clothing line like a few years back too. That's kind of spawned out of the band stuff that kind of expanded past that. But he actually was doing a thing with Red TV at the time. He was producing, or directing, I should say. He was directing different documentaries on people, and he did one on her called Hard Loving Woman. And so we at the time, that was when I was actually brought on board for that project specifically, because they were going to film a live show, and it took a lot of coordination to get all that part of the documentary pieced together with this whole live show. But he was the director of that. So that was when I first met Michael Rappaport.
That's excellent. Yeah, for people who aren't aware, the actress Juliette Lewis has a band called Juliette Lewis and the Licks. And I do remember when you toured with her as a guitar player, and I was like, that's dope. That's a dope gig.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was really cool. I mean, she's been so busy with acting lately, so there hasn't really been much on the music front. But like, we always talk about, like, it'd be cool to do things here and there. But it's just like, right. I mean, obviously right now it doesn't matter at all. But even in more recent times, it was just like, it never really made much sense anyways. So it's because it's like all of the guys that she usually has are off doing other projects and things. So getting everyone together was always
I
difficult.
really like her stuff. Her band is amazing. Like that's like that kind of like, kind of vintage, hard rock, garagey stuff that's right up my alley. That's what all of us old punks and death metal guys like, is that we all get into garage rock. So she's like perfect for that. It's weird. Like, she's good friends with another guest that was on Piper Ferguson. And when I was at Piper's wedding, Juliet was there, and I said hi to her and stuff. She seems super cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That name sounds
she's a huge photographer in the rock. She's probably taken your picture before. I wouldn't be surprised if she's taken your picture before.
Gotcha.
Like a total random thing that just occurred to me that I wanted to ask you about is, did you go to like a performing arts school when you were growing up? And was that like a thing where you wanted to act, or was that always about music?
I would say, like, before I got into doing music, I did have a stint where I was like, oh, I want to be an actor, when I was a kid. But that pretty quickly morphed into doing music. Yeah. When I was in like grade school and like probably through middle school, I went to like a performing art, it was like an art school. And they would do like, they'd have dance classes and art classes and singing and stuff like that. Which, that was cool. I mean, it definitely was it was useful in the sense of just being able to like find a voice and work on understanding music and things like that while I'm, at school, sure. which was pretty cool. I definitely say that like a lot of my brother and I's like biggest way of getting into it was just listening to records and then wanting to mimic the musicians that we listened to. When we were like, like at the time when we started picking up instruments, we were like super into Metallica and like DRI and Pantera, which is kind of a difficult way to start being a musician. It'd be cooler if we wanted to play something that was a little
Sex
simpler.
Pistols records or something.
But but it's like, yeah. But still that was always that's way more of a motivation, I feel, than like any kind of like class you could take and stuff like that. But like want to learn sit down and learn the songs that, that you like.
Absolutely.
So that was definitely the biggest way that we kind of got into it. And also because Jason picked up doing recording really early on, we would like try and mimic a song as closely as possible and record it. So we would like actually like we would learn the song and then try and make it sound like close to the original. I doubt we did that whatsoever, but that's what we tried to do. And luckily those are all in real tape, so that is cool. Probably
that's awesome though. That reminds me of back in when I was a teenager in the 80s in my first band. I was really good friends with Steve Von Till of the band Neurosis just before he joined Neurosis, and he recorded my old band's first demo, and his demo to play for people to convince them that he could record them was that his dad had built him had taken one of those tough sheds and built him like a little recording studio, and he had like a little 4-track in there, and he just did cover songs where he played all the instruments on the song. So he'd do like a Cro-Mag song, or he'd do an Exodus song, and he would play the guitar, the drums, do the vocals, like the whole thing, and he would record it. And I remember hearing him, and it was like, that sounds like the goddamn real band, dude. And he was always one of those people who was like so much more advanced in his thinking and his skills than all of the rest of us at the time in the San Jose area with what he was doing, that it's no surprise that he went on to do something amazing and influential like Neurosis was,
Right.
Yeah.
That's rad.
So yeah. And to kind of speak to that a little bit, to what you were saying is like being able to just kind of find your voice a little bit, and probably just getting used to public, like performing in front of other people, so that when you actually got a band going and started playing live, you already had flexed that muscle, and it was probably a lot easier. Because I know for me, I was in my first band when I was like 15 or 16, and that ran for probably 5 years. And so one of the things that you hear is that almost all people's greatest fear is public speaking. And I think that being in bands so young, like we were, like you lose any fear of doing stupid shit in front of other people pretty quick. So it explains why you're so comfortable making your funny videos, and why I can make a podcast, and why a lot of us who grew up making our own things are able to just keep doing it and do all of these amazing things that we do, just because we got all the fear out of the way when we were so young,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the quicker you can kind of get off that, get that going. I mean, we started bands, and like I was like 14 and my brother was 16 was what we had, like our first like band that like was play out gigs and stuff like that. And we did like the whole like, pay to play thing, and like playing at the Roxy and the Whiskey and stuff like that, and like early 90s or whatever. And it was like it as looking back at that, as far as like career wise, it wasn't any like that was going to go anywhere, but that experience of getting on a stage and performing in front of an audience at 14, 15 with the whole thing with the lights and talking to a sound guy, and how to talk to a sound guy, and you know what I mean, and how to sound check and how to load in and etiquette with other bands and shit like that. It's like all of that is always surprising when you see an adult band not know how to do it. It's always just like, dude, are you serious? It's just really surprising, just because, to me, it's just so second nature to know like all the correct way to load on a stage, get the fuck off of the stage, and how to speak to somebody properly, so it's sounding like
dude, totally. Like just how many times have you been at a gig that you're and it's like you get on stage, you set your shit up like a bunch of professionals, and then the other band just like keeps loading their gear out in front of you while you're starting your set, because they just don't know that you don't fucking do that. It's like there's like a lot of that stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
But and some people just will never learn. Like some people just will never learn. They don't understand that they don't know something and they'll never learn. They don't care. And that, whatever, that's part of being in a band, I guess, is you just kind of end up dealing with all kinds of different people. On your little cheat sheet, one of I always ask people like some other things that they do that are kind of outside of their normal creative stuff. And one of the things you said is that you gave me 3 and they were all really good. Is that you like to cook, and that you are super into fitness, and you ran the LA Marathon, and that you studied German. So what's with the German thing?
Yes. I started speaking German, or started studying German, I should say, when I, in like the mid 2000s, because I was going to Europe a lot. I was like, every year we were touring Europe, and I had taken a liking to the country. I had taken a liking to the language, and a lot of the people that we were working were like, I mean, maybe you've experienced this too, going to Europe as a band. Almost everyone on the business side is usually stationed in Germany. The gear rental. Yeah,
our stuff was all out of Netherlands. But yeah, I know it. But I know exactly what you say, because it's not that different. In the Netherlands and Germany.
Yeah. So anyway, and so I had thought that it would be cool if I wanted to, I was just like, I think I'll learn German. And then being a naive American, I was just like, I can pick up the language. And then I was like, oh fuck, this is way harder than I thought it would be. But then I just kept going with it, and I just kept on it, and I took it very seriously, and I wanted my kids to be bilingual. So, I started speaking from the time my daughter was born with her in German, and she goes to a German immersion school. Actually, both my kids are going to be going to a German immersion next year, because my son's starting kindergarten. But and then I studied it in college and things like that as well, because it was a passion of mine. Just the language, I just like it, and I love Germany, but also I just the importance I feel is just also in just Absolutely. Being bilingual and being able to go places and not just be apologetic that you have no idea. You know what I mean? It's just like it's fine. I get it, but I wanted a little bit more for myself to feel like I could, converse with people and not have to, ask them to speak English.
When I was in Europe touring, I found that, I absolutely loved Germany. It's such a beautiful country. I'm partial to Netherlands. I think it's probably my favorite place on earth that isn't Los Angeles. Nice. In Germany, I found that it was one of the only places where they didn't appear to be somewhat delighted to speak English to an English person. Like, it seemed like wherever we went, people were excited to speak English if as well as they could. And I felt like kind of in Germany, it was like, when you started speaking English, they were kind of like, oh, we got to do this. That was my impression. And it's not a negative dig towards Germany or Germans and all, but I did notice there was a little slight difference in attitude about the English language. And we toured over there with a Finnish band, and those dudes all had an amazing command of English, and the Dutch do too. And I was asking our tour manager, is Dutch. Shout out Luke Van Gestel. He runs Doomstar Bookings. They're one of the bigger crust grind booking agencies in Europe. And I asked Luke what kind of why do all of the Dutch speak English so well, and in Germany it seems less like that. And he said that in Holland, all of the American rerun TV shows would have the English. Well, they would broadcast them in English. And so they all ended up watching the A-Team and Airwolf and all of these TV shows in English. So they learned English by watching American TV shows. And that wasn't the same in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Germany dubs most things over. So yeah, I've had that conversation a few times with several different people, and in Sweden and things as well, that there's just subtitles versus overdubbing, so that they actually hear the language a lot more. So it tends to be ingrained in a little bit earlier on, because just from watching cartoons and shit like that.
Being latchkey kids taught them how to speak English. Yeah, I have a lot of friends from Sweden too, and like every single one of them speaks like practically perfect English.
Amazing.
The Swedish really and Norwegian English accent is my favorite accent of all. Like I can listen to Swedish and Norwegian people speak English with that accent endlessly. Like I follow this YouTube channel called Nerd Forge, and it's this Norwegian girl and her boyfriend who just do like crafting projects, like they build like wizard staffs and like just all kinds of random shit, and I could just sit and listen to them talk endlessly. It just reminds me of all my friends that are over there in those places, and I'm like, I miss all my friends.
And there's a lot of great bands out of Sweden too. I have
that is also another thing that has come up on the show, and if any human being who knows me knows that it is my opinion that the highest percentage of great bands that any country has produced is from Sweden. And it's across genres. It doesn't matter if it's pop music or punk music or heavy metal music. They all the best bands. I'm wearing a Refused t-shirt right now, as a matter of fact. And it's like, yeah, you're right. The Sweden, and I was talking to Matt Harvey from the death metal band Exhumed. We kind of talked about that a little bit. And I guess it's because like if you show any ability in any way as a kid, as a musician, or as any kind of artist, they just start giving you every resource to advance that. Like you get rehearsal space, you get recording time, like all of these things, because the country realized that they could produce, this was something that they could produce that would elevate Sweden on a national level across the globe. And so like they just like, if you got some skills, we'll help you manage them. And that's why 16-year-old band like the Refused or Entombed or any of these Swedish bands that were so accomplished by the time they were 15 or 16 that could playing on the level with all of the adult bands. That's why that happened, as far as I've been explained anyway.
Interesting. I haven't heard that explanation before.
And I think that
that's cool.
I think that I think Netherlands has a similar type of thing, and I believe so does Denmark, because I know some of the Swedish, like some of the early death metal bands kind of benefited from that from other places as well. Like I know the band Pestilence from Netherlands, like it's like a similar thing. Oh my God, I think they're from Netherlands. I can't remember now. Anytime I try to call up specific information when I'm talking on this show, I always fucking fuck it up. So, so you ran the LA Marathon, dude. That's crazy. I mean, I know a bunch of people who have, but I could never do it, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I did it when I did, because who knows if they'll ever do it again, or for a while they may not do it. And it was right at it was on March 7th, so it was like right before everything went down, and it was even being discussed whether or not they were going to not do it, because it was right at that time, and events and things were being canceled, but not everything had gotten canceled at that point. So, but yeah, and I just had gotten actually a buddy of mine, he was running the marathon and the half marathon in Pasadena earlier this year as well. I think it was in January, February, and I was like, you know what? I want to do it. I've always say I want to do it, but then I can never sign up, and it'll just give me like a reason to have to train every day. It'll give me a reason to have to exercise every day. And so I did. So I signed up and I did the half, and then that you'd think that might help you prepare for what it would be like to run a marathon, but then you also have to realize that's literally half the distance, and now you have to do that again. It's like, so take that, and it's not just like doing that again. You're also doing, after you've done that and you're that tired, now do that same distance at that level of exhaustion. So yes, it was challenging for sure, I would say, because I did it in 4 hours and 2 minutes. I was trying to beat 4 hours, but I didn't quite make it in time, and I couldn't.
Right.
Like there was no way. Like I was trying my hardest, but my legs just wouldn't work anymore. But yeah, I mean, it was a fun accomplishment, and it was like it was a really cool event to be a part of. It's really interesting to see what kind of it definitely it's a totally different vibe from, like, let's say a show, as far as like, it's like you get the same amount of people, but there's a way different vibe. It's like totally different vibe. It's like, it's really positive, super, just like everyone's kind of looking out for each other. Not to say the shows aren't, but you know what I mean. It's a little bit just a different energy. And so, but it was definitely a cool experience, and I felt very accomplished for doing it. But and it did give me the bug to want to do it again. But we'll have to see when that will happen.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, are you a runner in general?
Yeah, I am a runner in general. That's kind of what made me think, oh, I can do this. It's definitely not. I'm not a crazy athlete in that sense. Like, obviously, like the pros at marathons are just like out of this world. Like, I don't even understand those people. It's pretty insane. But like running comes pretty naturally, and I've gotten a little less into running because I realized that it's not like kind of the end all and be all of fitness. Like, I realized that there's so much more that your body actually needs to do in order to, be in shape. And that I found that there was actually certain, something about the full on repetitive motion. You actually are losing you're losing sight of a lot of other muscles that also need work. So I've kind of been trying to branch into a lot of different other methods of exercise, like calisthenics and yoga and various different and lifting weights and things like that. But yeah. So I mean, but running is sort of always a fallback for me, because it is like when I get really like fucking exhausted from having to do something, I'm just like, I'm just gonna run. Like, I thought I can just do that, and I don't even have to think about it. It's just like it's just comes really easily.
That's awesome. Like, I do not like running. I've never found it to be something that on a physical fitness level, that, because everybody has to find the thing that they actually enjoy to do in order to be able to keep being fit.
Totally.
Forever for me is like, I played hockey for 43 years, and but now that's winding down now. I think I've decided like that I'm probably not going to go back after the quarantine's over. I think I'm done playing now at this point. I turned 51 in 2 days, and I finally destroyed my knee for the first time ever in 43 years of playing, and I'm just like, I think maybe I need to find something else. So, but to kind of speak to that, aside from playing hockey, I'm a stationary bike person. Like, I can get on that bike and just hammer it out.
Oh, cool.
And then recently, my wife got like a really super fucking high end treadmill. And it's got like the screen, and you can go like run or hike in different locations all over the world, and it's like super cool. So I'm gonna like take up like hiking. It's like you can go hike at Machu Picchu or the Grand Canyon. It's kind of like it's kind of like a Peloton, but for treadmills. Well, she runs on it, and it's like she busts her ass running on that thing, and it's like. At the time I was like, whew, that's not cheap. And then once I realized like how killer that thing is, I was like, oh yeah, it's worth every penny. But yeah, I'm an exercise bike guy personally, but I don't think I'd ever ride like a real bike in the real world or anything. Like it's just like I can get on the bike, I can throw on,
Yeah.
I can throw on a TV show, and, and just hit it for like a whole episode. And then
Yeah.
I find that I'm most consistent when I find a series to watch that I can just every day I can watch an episode of it. It keeps me like on track to ride the bike. Yeah. But yeah, I have a bunch of friends who run the LA Marathon, and my only experience with it really was that I lived in Echo Park on Echo Park Avenue, like right at sunset for like 8 years. And, whenever the marathon happened, like my morning was ruined by the marathon. So like grumpy neighborhood guy was like my experience with the marathon. And that was also my experience with the Dodgers games, was grumpy local neighbor guy, especially like that opening week. It was just like the streets of Echo Park were awash with vomit and blue Bud Light cans.
Yeah, the unfortunate, neighborhood things of living near sporting places.
Dude, I totally miss that neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure.
I miss living over there. We're way out in like Woodland Hills area now, so we're like all the way across the valley.
Okay.
Yeah, which is where I raised my kids out here, and then and two of my kids still live out this way. So it was like, we can afford to buy a house out here, and then it gives me a chance to live within like 2 miles of two of my kids. So it was like an easy buy-in.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I like the area we're in now. I mean, like actually part of the reason why I always thought it'd be cool to get a bike and do that whole thing. But we lived in LaRocca for a long time, which is just mountains, and like we were up on, So and I was like, that's not a good place to start for me, because for where we lived, I'd have to just like basically ride a mountain down half for a mile, which means I'd have to get back up eventually, and I was just like, yeah, no. But now we're like kind of in a like little section where we're like right next to Atwater Village and the kind of like and Eagle Rock and like all that kind of stuff. And it's a lot way more flat. So I would totally be into getting a bike now, but I haven't done any of that kind of thing. But yeah, that's like, we've thought about getting out that way, more towards you guys. I mean, it's way more affordable, obviously. And it's cool. Like I actually went to school out that way at one point too. So I dig that area.
We're not too far from CSUN. We're kind of like right over, like Canoga Park, like Winnetka area. But I miss that whole area over, when we were in Echo Park. We spent a lot of time, Eagle Rock, Glendale. Like we found ourselves in Glendale or Burbank like 3 times a week. Just because we live so close. So I'm familiar with the area that you're in, and that's I love it over there. And if we could have afforded, we probably would have bought something over there, but just get, you can get twice as much house over on this side of the valley than you can on that side of it. But I do miss it. That's where all the cool stuff is. It's where all the cool restaurants and all the venues. There are no venues out here. That is the thing that's madness is, do you remember the Cobalt Cafe? Yeah, Cobalt's not here anymore.
Yeah. We played
Cobalt's not here anymore, so it's like, because that's like literally like 2 miles from where I'm at, and where I raised my kids, it was a couple miles from there. And my middle son got super into punk music, like right around when you guys were starting to put out records, and so it would be like a Friday night, and I'd take him over there, and for $5 we could watch 8 local street punk bands play, and he loved it, man. Like. He was like in 5th or 6th grade, and had a little mohawk, and he loved it. He loved it, going over there and watching those bands. And it sucks that there isn't anything out here now like that. It's a bummer.
Yeah, well, I mean that's that. I mean that as a topic in general, it's like, dude, what venues are going to be left
after this
and all this? It's like I'm so curious to see what. I'm so curious to see what will be born out of this whole thing, because I'm imagining that, something will happen because of all of this, because there's going to be so much pent up energy and it's just, I have thought about that. I thought about like what's going to be like that next kind of catalyst, or what's going to be that thing that people really get into as far as musically from all of this, because shows are going to be different for quite some time, and the venues, everything is just going to be so like we just don't. It's so unknown that I'm just so curious to see kind of like once things start to get back into that mode, where what kind of direction to go in, because I believe that it's there will be like a little bit of a shift,
everywhere.
Because I mean, something like this is going to shift people's this is going to just shift their whole kind of personality a little bit. So I think that like musically, I think there's probably some cool stuff on the horizon.
Just like a complete shift in consciousness, where I think maybe if there's something that a benefit, I think we can all at least hope, is that people realize that like your time is valuable and you don't have a lot of it, and so doing something with it is of value to yourself as a person, and so I do agree. I think that on the other side of this, we're gonna see some, because I remember during the last recession, the benefit to society that I noticed was that when there was a prolonged period of time where people couldn't find a job, people started doing their own thing.
Yeah.
That's where this whole maker culture in the last decade kind of sprang out of that, where people were like, I'll just start making furniture. If I've got nothing else to do, I'll just start making furniture. And now this guy's got a furniture company. And it ended up to the point where we ended up with some absurd things like, designer hand axes and shit like that. But but in general,
that's I never really thought of that being born out of that whole thing. That's funny. That's so true, because there's so many
candle makers
now, like,
and all
such
that
like
stuff.
Niche, specific,
Yeah, and I love
thing.
that as a DIY person and somebody who's like constantly trying to always do my own thing and find new ways to make things or create things or reimagine the world or my surroundings. Like, it's been the greatest thing to see happen, on top of any other weird culture of things that have happened in this country over the last 10 or 15 years. That is, to me, the best thing that has come out of anything in this country, is like people just decided to DIY it, and that's great. And I think that we're going to see a lot more of that. I think we're going to see it again, because all these businesses are closing, and people, if there's no job to go back to, they're going to start businesses and do their thing again. So I feel like the bounce back from this, once things open back up, is going to be pretty strong, pretty quick. Just my personal opinion on it.
Yeah. I'd like to feel that way. I agree. I think that's I would like to see that happen. I would love to see that, that's just a fourth new cool shit, and on the horizon, And I mean, that's why like I vowed to, when the quarantine started, and I was just like, all right, I can't waste this time. Like, I have to make sure that I'm not sitting around bummed about everything, drinking, and just going into this mode of just like, this sucks. But like, okay, cool. So I can't do what I like, all of the shit that I'm used to doing. So that's time to go to work. It's time to like start creating more shit and taking it and using that time valuably. And like, and looking back at it as a positive, looking back like, yes, I mean, because of that, that's when I really started to go full bore with this, so that, it's been slow going to some degree, but it definitely, but keeping that, frame of mind is definitely really a good, it's helping me.
Totally, dude. That's exactly, that's like with this podcast, I was like, well, now's the time. Everybody's going to be home. If I need to talk to people, everybody's available. I might as well go for it now. And so like, it was like one of those things where my wife was kind of constantly on the fence about like, is this what we really want to invest your time in? And so it was like slow going for about a year. And then when this all started, I recorded some test episodes and she watched and she's like, oh, wow, you're like super natural in front of the camera. You know, maybe this is what we should do during this quarantine time. Let's go for it. And so we just like, I just dove in and was like, I guess I got to learn how to edit video and, you know, color correct things, which I don't know how to do. And so, yeah, so like, I feel you on that. It was like, I'm not going to sit here and do nothing. And then at the same time, I ended up having a contract with a company I make art for, like re-upped my contract. And so like, I never slowed down work wise. And so then I took on this full-time project on top of full-time work. So I was like, uh-oh. But dude, I'm so happy that you came on and decided to talk to me, man. It was like really cool to just get some time like learning more about you, because we're friends, but we never really like hung out and got to know each other, friends. And so
we never like sat.
So this was super cool, so, and I know you're a dad, and you got your kids there, and so I appreciate you giving me your time.
Yeah, man. Of course.
Excellent.
Great.
Excellent.
Good time.
So yeah, we'll wrap it up, and then afterwards, you said you had a story you were going to tell me about something that happened to you in Italy. So people will have to kind of keep an ear out for like bonus footage stuff. So anyway, thanks, dude. And I hope you want to come back on when you have something going on with that new band.